This is Will Tuttle, who is going to be doing a class today for us that is for opening the intuitive gate, keys to developing intuition. Thank you, Will, for joining us here today. If anyone has questions during class, Will be paying attention to the chat area, so you can put questions down in that area for him. And you also will have control over whether or not you're muted. So if at some point he opens up the floor to questions, just unmute yourself and you can ask a question. Thank you, Will. Go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jeannie and Patrick, for handling all this. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is Dr. Will Tuttle, and I'm the author of a book called The World Peace Diet. This is another book you can maybe see here, which is called Your Inner Islands, The Keys to Intuitive Living. My PhD at Berkeley focused on educating intuition in adults. And so that's been a passion of mine for quite a while. And then since then, my spouse, Madeleine, and I are traveling all over the United States and actually worldwide, and giving lectures actually and workshops on developing intuition. So I'd like to just say a few words about intuition at the beginning, and then I'd like to open it up for an exercise that we'll do, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we can cultivate and develop our intuition, 7 main keys, and then open it up for your questions. So the time flies by. It's really, going to go quickly. Like I say, and like Jeannie said, if you have a really pressing question of some kind, just go ahead and unmute yourself. I think you can do that. Press *6 or unmute, and I can address it. But I'd like to just start out by taking a moment and just inviting all of us to turn our attention within just briefly and just give thanks for this precious opportunity that we have to be here together, virtually together in this space of it's a safe space for creativity and connecting to our inner wisdom, and just give thanks for each and every one of us and for the spiritual and wisdom traditions from all around the world that help us to develop our spiritual wisdom, for all the teachers in our lives, and for this precious opportunity of a human birth. And we give thanks also knowing that all the ripples that radiate out into the infinite web of relations from our being together during this time will be ripples to bring peace and healing and greater joy, freedom, and abundance and creativity into our world for the benefit of all living beings. And so it is. So thank you all for joining us. And basically, the word intuition, I think tells us a lot. The word intuition comes from the ancient Latin roots in, which means in or within, and tuere is the infinitive of the verb to learn or to look. So intuition is learning from within, or learning by looking within. The idea is that we have a conscious mind that can look outwards all the time and see and hear and taste, touch, smell, and all that, and deal with the outer world, but it can also pivot and look in. We can contemplate our consciousness, our awareness. We can remember, we can imagine, we can take inner journeys and so forth. And so we have tremendous capacities, I think, internally that are untapped in our society. Especially, we live, as I talk about in the World Peace Diet, in a society that's overemphasizing the material dimension of life. And so this idea of an intuitive imperative, I write about that actually in the World Peace Diet, that it's imperative for us in our society today to begin to develop our inner wisdom, our inner guidance system. So I'm delighted that you're all here, because that says to me that on some level you're interested in intuition. And I think there's no greater gift we can give to the world, to ourselves, to our loved ones, than the gift of developing our intuition. It's a great gift we give to ourselves and others. I think we all know intuitively, actually, that our best friend, really, in our life is an inner knowing that we can learn to cultivate and develop that will help us to live our life, our unique life authentically. So intuition is not going to give us, some kind of guarantee about anything, but it does give us the opportunity to live our unique life. So instead of being essentially just compelled, just kind of going forward based on the cultural program and everything we've learned from our parents and teachers and all the influences in our lives from the outside, which really push us in many ways and determine what we should yearn for and have ambition about and strive for and so forth, to actually get our inner guidance and the inner push from within ourselves, that we are not just a body. That's one of the basic ideas, I guess, just behind what I'm going to be doing today, is that we're not merely a biochemical organism, a thing that was born and will die. That what we are essentially is eternal consciousness, beyond it being either fundamentally male or female, or rich or poor, or black or white, or any of that. We're consciousness. We're manifesting through a vehicle that maybe has characteristics, but what we are is eternal consciousness. And one of the foundational aspects of consciousness is the capacity to know directly, So intuition is not some exotic thing that we have to import, that most people don't have, but we have to somehow get it. It's natural. The main problem is we've learned in our society to block it, to repress it, to ignore it and deny it. It's kind of like a little bit like this joke I heard back in the days when President Reagan was in office. And the joke was that he went to his advisors and he said, I've got a great idea how we can end the energy crisis once and for all. What we'll do is we'll just build a pipeline from the earth straight up to the sun, and we'll just pipe in all that solar energy right into the earth. We can meter it, we can get rich, we can make sure there's plenty of energy, and we can be done with the whole energy problem forever. And his advisors went away and consulted with scientists and experts, and they came back a few days later and they said, sir, as usual, it's a great idea, but the problem is that when we're building that pipeline up to the sun, at a certain point, we're going to get close enough to the sun that the temperature gets so hot, and there's no material that can withstand that kind of heat. And so, it's not going to work. And he said, look, you guys, I already figured that out. When we're building that pipeline and we get close to the sun, then we'll just only build at night. That was his his solution to the problem. And we laugh because we know that from our point of view, he's right. At night we're turned away from the sun, but we know the sun is always shining. And it's the same thing with our intuition. It's the sun of intuition is always shining in our heart, in our mind, in our awareness. It's just that we're turned in the other direction, or we're on a cloudy day, we say that, the sun's not shining today. It's shining. We have the clouds, in a sense, in the way, the clouds of our conditioning, of our fear in many ways. And so the whole idea essentially is to help remove the blockages and let the sun of intuition shine into our daily life in actions, in thoughts and inspirations and creative ideas and so forth, in our relationships. And this can be enormously enriching. So that's the basic thing. That's the good news. We all have this capacity. We can all develop it. And ultimately, it's for our own good, because it's our own inner wisdom. It's essentially feminine. There's, I just want to mention that briefly, that there's these two fundamental ways we have of knowing when we use words. My PhD at Berkeley, I went into this in depth, but every culture has recognized that we have words like analysis and logic and rationality and intellect. That's masculine ways of knowing. It's knowing by dividing and comparing. It's knowing in which there's always a subject and an object. It's me over here trying to figure out what's over there. But there's other words that are also in every culture, like intuition or revelation or inspiration or spiritual knowing. And this refers to a more feminine-based way of knowing. Again, all of us have masculine and feminine capacities. But the feminine capacity of knowing, intuition, is based on receptivity. So it's kind of like yin and yang principles. Either one is better than the other. They fulfill each other. They're both great. The thing is, with intuition, I think it's, in a sense, the foundation, because without intuition, our rationality becomes profoundly irrational, and we can rationalize almost anything, including, huge weapons and so forth. So intuition is the knowing that connects us at a deeper level with the interconnectedness of all life, and with life at a at a greater understanding of than just the material level. So it's feminine because it's based on receptivity. And it can lead to action. So one of the main things I think to understand about intuition is that the more we spend time cultivating intuition, which is this capacity to be open and receive from a higher level, the more effective we'll be in the world, in what we're doing, whatever we're doing, however that shows up. The symbols of rational knowing, for example, primarily the main symbol cross-culturally is a sword or a knife or a blade. The word, we have different words, but the word analysis, for example, literally in Greek means to cut apart, to cut something and divide it. So analysis, rationality, we use a sword or a blade to cut things apart, to take them apart, to try to know them. Whereas with intuitive knowing, we try to put everything together. So the cross-cultural symbol for this feminine intuitive knowing is a bowl or a cup or a chalice, something that is open at the top to receive from a higher dimension. And when the wisdom comes from a higher dimension, we receive it. And this chalice, I think, is what, it's very interesting. In the West, we have this myth. And a myth, in the Joseph Campbell sense of the word, is a story that reveals wisdom in a society. So we have a myth of the Holy Grail, and the Holy Grail, of course, the Grail is the cup, represents intuition. And what is it? It's lost, right? And nobody can find it. We have the knights on their horses or their swords out looking for the Grail. And they never found it. That's the problem. That's the great wound at the core of our society, is we've lost intuition. We've lost the cup. We've lost the Grail. We've lost respect for the feminine way of being and the feminine way of knowing. And thus we find disease and destruction all around us. So this is, excuse me, this is the situation we find ourselves in. And I'd like to go ahead and maybe just have us do an exercise briefly together that might help us to get a feeling for intuition a little bit. And then do an exercise with music. I'm happen to be sitting here at a piano, so actually, I'm going to be playing the piano for one of the for this next exercise. But first, let's just do a brief meditation together, because I think it's helpful to know a few things that we can do in our daily lives that can maybe help us to connect with our intuition. So one of the things that's helpful, I think, is to look out into nature and realize we have around us a lot of allies. We have trees, for example. I'd like everyone to just take a moment and imagine you're a tree. So you can be sitting wherever you are. Imagine you're a tree, or you can stand up if you want, if you're a place where you can stand up. Imagine you're a tree. Let's just do that for a moment, because I think in many ways what intuition is connecting heaven and earth. And really, cross-culturally, people have recognized for thousands of years that we human beings are like trees, in the sense that trees reach up to heaven, and heaven represents the infinite and eternal dimension of consciousness, and connect earth, which represents this world and the capacity we have in this world. So as beings, we are here in a sense to raise up our experience here to a higher level, and also to bring heaven and the infinite capacities of heaven into our earthly experience. So this idea that these are connected is very important. So trees represent this. They convert sunlight into matter, something that is an alchemical miracle in many ways. So let's take a moment. Imagine you're a tree. We can close our eyes. It's maybe a little easier. And just feel for a moment that you're connected to the earth through your roots, through the soles of your feet. And with every inhalation, just breathing and drawing up this wonderful energy from the earth into the trunk of the tree that you are. And as you exhale, extend your roots more and more deeply into the earth. So with every exhalation, your roots go deeper. With every inhalation, you draw up energy from the earth that lets you grow even taller and lets your roots go even deeper. So just feel yourself now rooted in the earth. This beautiful experience of being rooted in the earth and all that the earth represents, the infinite nurturing power You're just rooted in this infinite nurturing power, nurturing every cell of your being. Just feel your roots going very deep down into the earth now. Great. Okay, now let's let our hands go up over our head. And imagine that from your fingertips, there are branches going higher and higher into the sky. With every exhalation, the branches go higher, leaves and branches. And as we inhale, we open up to the energy of the sun. Great. So we're opening to the energy of the sun, going higher, and this wonderful energy of the sun. Also, the moon, the stars, the rain, the clouds, the birds, the planets, the whole cosmos. We're opening to the whole cosmos, the infinite heaven, the power of heaven, the power of infinite consciousness and light. And bringing that down into every cell of our being. Great. Moving a little bit, just dancing a little bit as trees do in the wind. Great. And now just letting your arms come down, still rooted in the earth, and letting your hands go towards the earth as if you're a willow tree. The willow trees are these beautiful trees that rise up and then also reach down with the branches. And we can be like a willow tree. We can receive from the earth and we can give back to our society, to our world. So as a willow tree, we make a circuit of the energy. Can make a nice aha sound. Aha. Just kind of say that out loud. Aha. Connected. And now we'll do a short practice of purification because this is also very helpful. That's something we can do every day as well. Anytime we're feeling scattered or rushed or nervous, just take 5 minutes and be a tree. It's a wonderful thing. Just breathe into the earth, connect to the earth and to the cosmos like a tree. Another thing we can do is this practice, which is based on an ancient Tibetan purification practice. So just as you're sitting quietly, imagine that the very top of your head is open and that from the very heart of the universe, there is a white light that is streaming down and it's coming right into the top of your head. This beautiful white light of purification, of healing, of joy and creativity and awareness and wisdom. And it slowly comes down. And as it comes down through the top of your head, it purifies and heals. So just see the light coming down through your head, going down through your brain, your eyes, your ears, your sinuses and nose, your mouth and jaw, your neck, down through your neck, your whole head just being washed clean of any old wounds or fears or any blockages to your intuition. This white light is washing down through your neck and head and down into your shoulders, and from your shoulders down into your upper arms, and down through your upper arms to your elbows and lower arms, forearms, wrists, hands, fingers, and just streaming out through your fingers, just washing away any old wounds or limitations. It's now washing down through your upper body, through your upper chest and upper back, down through your lungs and heart, all your internal organs, down through the middle part of your body, your abdomen, and down into the lower part of your abdomen, and washing away any wounds down into the pelvic region. And again, just bringing healing energy, washing away any limitations to creativity and joy and exuberance and awareness and love and abundance, and washing down into your upper legs and into your knees and down through your knees into your lower legs, through your ankles, to your feet, and just streaming out through the soles of your feet, through your toes, And just see your whole physical body now as a stream of light, a river of light, that this is washing away, cleansing and purifying any obstacles to the free flowing of joy and abundance and intuitive wisdom in your life. Just feeling that, giving thanks for that. So we abide in gratitude, in joy, in freedom. And again, anytime you're feeling stressed or blocked, you can take just a few minutes and remember that at the very top of your head, there's an opening, and it's connected always to the infinite supply of wisdom, joy, and abundance that is part of your connection to the universe. That you're birthed by the universe in an act of love, that you're here as part of a benevolent unfolding of life to celebrate and enjoy the adventure and to be part of the creative unfoldment of life on this beautiful earth. So taking time every day or whenever it feels right to purify and remember can be very helpful. All right, great. So I'd like to thank you all for participating in those two exercises. Now, the next exercise I'd like to offer here is a one where we're going to be just letting the music evoke imagery. So I'll just play. I think we have time. I'll try to do kind of. I'll do three. I'll do three pieces of music. This will be kind of short pieces. So the idea is to just listen to the music, enjoy the music, but the main thing is to let the music evoke imagery. So the best thing is probably to close your eyes and just see what happens when you're listening to the music, what emerges. There's one thing that I'll just mention as a background for this. There's different types of imagery, right? So if I say, imagine you're at the beach, most people, many people anyway, can kind of have a visual image of that. They can see the sun, the sand, the water, the seagulls flying around, whatever it is. That's visual imagery. Some people will especially go, oh yeah, I'm at the beach. I can just hear the sound of the waves. I can hear the sound of kids playing or whatever. That's auditory imagery. And some people will, if we say, imagine you're at the beach, they'll have just this feeling, it'd be more like, oh, I can just feel the warm sun. I can feel my bare feet in the sand, that kind of thing. So we have these three primary modalities of imagining. They're called visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And so notice yourself as you're listening. And actually, one thing I want to add to that is that intuition very often comes to us as in one of these three modalities. So for example, many people get their intuitive guidance through a vision of some kind. It could be in meditation, a vision emerges. It could be maybe they're driving their car and they just get a flash of their mother's face. They go, I better call my mother or whatever. So visual imagery it's very common that we get an intuitive insight through a vision. A lot of people will get an intuitive insight or guidance through some kind of auditory imagery, which is basically like a voice or inner conversation of some kind that provides guidance. So again, the still small voice. Again, that's very, very common. And then a lot of people get an intuitive guidance kinesthetically, like they'll have a feeling, like a gut feeling, a heart feeling, a tingling feeling when they read something, when they hear about something, whatever. So that can, so all three of these can be ways of accessing our intuition. So it's a good idea to notice and to develop a sensitivity to yourself if you tend to be more visual, auditory, or kinesthetic in your intuition. You could be all three. So notice as you're listening to the music, the same thing. If you see a lot of visual imagery, if you get kind of kinesthetic imagery, auditory imagery, whatever it is. And then also, just try to remember what happens. If you have access to a piece of paper or pencil, maybe just jot down. After each piece, we'll have maybe a minute or so of just silence. And so jot down whatever happened for you during that piece, because it can be interesting to see. All right, and so we'll go ahead and start. I'll play the first piece of music now. And the whole idea in this exercise is to just listen to the music, let the music evoke imagery, just go with it, whatever comes, and then jot it down quickly. What came, like like in dream work, you jot down the dream as soon as you wake up while it's still fresh. Okay, so let's just connect with our breathing, giving thanks for this, again, this precious opportunity to connect with our inner wisdom, and just notice what kind of response emerges when you hear this question. This is the question we use when we go into this exercise. And the question is, right now in my life, what is it that I would like to understand better? Right now in my life, what is it that calls out for greater understanding, for wisdom, for healing? Just go ahead and open up to that question now for just a moment. Right now in my life, what is it that calls out the most right now for wisdom, for clarity, for insight, for understanding? Okay, great. Okay, so maybe jot that down if you like. And we'll go now to piece number 1. Again, listening to the music and letting the music evoke imagery. Okay, great. So let's take a moment, jot down whatever images or feelings came up for you as you were listening to that first piece, piece number 1. Okay, great. So now we're going to go to the second piece. Here's piece number 2. Again, listening, just letting the music evoke imagery. Okay, again, just writing down whatever images or feelings came up for you as you were listening to piece number 2. Great. Okay, this is the last one, piece number 3. Just listening and letting the music evoke imagery. Here we go. Okay, so again, thank you all for joining with us in this exercise. Please feel free to jot down whatever feelings or images and words or pictures, however you like to do it, on the last one. And normally if we have lots of time and so forth, we would take some time now to discuss all the different images that came up for people. But thank you all for joining with us. If anyone wants to share something from maybe piece number 1, 2, or 3, an image that came up for you that you thought was kind of interesting for some reason, go ahead. We have time. I think the hour-long thing makes it really tough to do a lot of sharing. But if someone wants to unmute, if you would like to unmute, go ahead. We can maybe hear from 1 or 2 people if anyone would like to do that. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and just say a few words about this exercise, which I think, maybe that's the best thing. It looks like David has unmuted himself there. Did you want to say something?
Yes.
David, oh, go ahead.
First of all, Hollywood is way ahead of you on this, obviously.
Right.
These songs, I have heard them all in Hollywood films and productions. So obviously there's producers, directors, screenwriters, and so forth, musician composers who agree 100% with what you're saying. They use these to evoke certain images and emotions. The first one was, I think, the most impactful for me. And this, again, it's just limited to me, obviously, but there was a sadness to it, kind of an end of life contentment, like I was on the final ocean cruise of my life, approaching the end, and just thinking about my lifelong process and how it's slowly coming to an end. That was the first one for me, and I'll leave it at that. I'm sure others want to talk about theirs also.
Right. Thank you, David. Yeah, the neat thing about this is that, you can basically have your own inner movie. We all have like you said, Hollywood, we have our own inner movie. And this music is all original music. I composed it all myself, and it just kind of comes through as an improvisation. But you're right; it's very much like something that we see when we watch movies. And the power, I think, really of music and imagery is enormous. And by listening to evocative music and letting it evoke imagery, things can happen that can be very helpful. So I really would like to share the 7 keys to developing intuition. So I think I'm going to stop right here with discussions and things, but just want to say, for all of you, you've heard what David said. Basically, what I'd like to just encourage everyone to do is when we're finished with the here, and you go about your day and so forth, and today, tomorrow, the next few days, see if you can just take a little time in the next few days just to think back, and the sooner the better, really, on your experience with these 3 pieces of music, the images that came up for you, the feelings, and see if you can make connections between your experience, whatever it was, whatever imagery or feelings came up in your life, and that question that I mentioned at the beginning. What is it that you would most like to understand in your life right now? You may, at the very beginning, when you first say, I just had this image of some children playing in a field, or I had an image of a stream flowing, or I had an image of a horse galloping, or whatever, or I was riding a horse, or I was dancing, or whatever it is, or I was with a lover, or whatever. But just see if you can, in a mythic way, connect with the symbolism. It's our intuition that actually interprets symbols for us. So it may not be just a random accident that you had a certain feeling or image, and there may be some wisdom there. There may be some intuitive guidance that can be helpful. So that's why I want to emphasize that it's no accident that whatever came up for you right now. If we were going to do this maybe 6 months from now, you might have a whole different experience because you'd be in a different place in your life at that point. So see if you can make some connections, and remember, by listening to evocative music and letting the music evoke imagery, you can sometimes get some good guidance as you interpret what the images were that were evoked in a certain question that you may be facing in your life or wanting guidance about something. So that's an exercise that I think is very helpful. I've used it many times over the years myself through music and imagery, and letting the music evoke imagery. All right, great. So thank you so much, David. And I really would like to, and we only have 15 minutes left, so I'd like to just give you this rundown of what I think are ways that we can develop our intuition, because these are practical things. So the basic idea here is that intuition, as I've been saying, is not just something that some people have and some people don't have. It's like anything else. We develop it through practice. Like playing the piano, you practice, you get, like anything. If we ask that basic question, I think of anyone, if you want to become good at something, what's the most important thing? Right? Practice. If we want to be a great knitter, we got to knit, right? If we want to be really good at tennis, we can't just read books on tennis and watch videos of people playing tennis. We're not going to become a great tennis player. We got to get the racket in our hand, hit the ball around, get the feeling of it. That's what the human life is. Human life is an experience where we learn by experience. We actually try things out and learn. So with intuition, it's a little different than playing the guitar or painting. It's, what do you practice? What do you actually practice to get good at becoming more intuitive? It's not that obvious. So I would like to give you 7 things that I think we can actually practice that will help increase our intuition and help develop it and help cultivate and make it more of a force, it's really a positive force in our life. So here are the 7 things. Number 1, the word for number 1 is the word meditation. And it's an English word that means basically a mind that's present and relaxed. So it's something that we're not taught to do in our society. And in fact, I would say in many ways, we are taught the opposite of a meditative awareness. We're taught to pretty much always try to change ourselves, change other people, get away from the present moment, think about the past, think about the future. We can live our whole life, I think, after we're 7 years old and hardly ever be here. We're always on to the next thing, or regretting or hoping or whatever. So meditation is a practice where we come into this moment with a relaxed and focused awareness. It can be really on anything. You can meditate on your breathing. You can meditate on an image. You can meditate on a feeling. You can also meditate by just listening, just internal listening. All of them basically do a similar thing. They allow us to let go of the internal dialogue that's always reinforcing this feeling of being a fundamentally separate self, and to just experience a witness consciousness, awareness, witnessing what's happening. And I think this is a really very helpful practice if we want to develop our intuition, because it allows us to become more sensitive and aware of how our mind works, how our attention works, what we actually feel and know in any situation. It's very possible to live our lives without really knowing what we're feeling, without being sensitive to the currents going on. So just sitting quietly. So I, personally, I do it every day for an hour in the morning. And I've done lots of retreats. I've done thousands of hours, lots of meditation. I think it's really helpful. So find a practice. I just want to encourage everyone to find a practice that you feel is helpful in meditation. And every day, the other thing is, don't look for progress in your meditation, because if you don't see progress, you might stop doing it. It's one of those things that's just good to do. Kind of like brushing your teeth, and just do it. And if you want to look for progress, look in the rest of your life when you're not meditating. And I think you will find that your relationships and your life in general become more connected and more healthy in many ways through meditation. So that's number 1, meditation, a practice. And number 2 is, the word for number 2 is dreams. Again, in our society, just as we're taught not to meditate, really, we're also not taught to connect with our dreams. We have a whole life when we're sleeping at night with lots of interesting things happening, but we wake up and we run off, we get a cup of coffee, we got to get going. So to take time to remember our dreams, maybe have a dream journal, connect with the messages. If we want to get guidance in something in our life, we can seed our dreams. We can say, I'd like to get some guidance on this. And then maybe we'll have dreams that can shed some light on the situation in the morning. Again, we interpret the dreams through our intuition. But to reconnect our waking self and our dreaming self can be very helpful. Lots of the greatest inventions and stories and things have come from dreams that people have had, either deep night dreams or sort of daydreams, a certain size. So dreaming is number 2, to develop our intuition. Number 3, something we can practice, is to practice cultivating a positive internal environment. Many traditions do emphasize this, spiritual traditions. It's called affirmations and denials sometimes. See, the basic idea is that we've all been bombarded with a lot of negativity. It's just unavoidable. We've been criticized as kids, told we're not good enough, or we don't look good, we're not talented, we're blah, blah, blah. And then we're being bombarded with negativity from the news all the time. The world is terrible, blah, blah, blah. So as a result, when we get quiet, all this negativity comes. So just consciously cultivate a positive internal environment. It's something we can actually do. We can consciously wake up in the morning and give thanks for another day, give thanks for opportunities, see the best in other people, see the best in ourselves. Take time to really stand porter at the gate of our thought and be aware of what we're thinking and cultivate positivity. This is very important, along with number 1. To have silence, but also then positivity. Without the meditation, it becomes kind of shallow. So it's very important to do those together. So number 3 is cultivate a positive internal environment. Number 4 is basically just to take risks and try new things. The more we can do that, as soon as we get out of our comfort zone and try something new, our intuition has to work. In many ways, we have to kind of use our new capacities, our intuitive capacities. So just not getting into deep ruts. When we get into ruts, we always drive the same way to work. We always say this, we always do that. Just try something else. Learning a foreign language, traveling to other countries, talking to people who are different that we don't normally talk to. Whatever we can do to cultivate a different perspective. Also, try on different perspectives. Try looking at life through the eyes of others, through the eyes of other people who have, again, different race, gender, whatever, different species. How would it look like to that cow or bird or dog, whatever? See from their point of view. That gets us out of the prison of being this fundamentally separate self. It opens up our intuition, opens up our compassion, these are both very much connected also. So that's number 4. Number 5 is to practice connecting with nature every day if possible. Do something. Just take a swim, take a walk, go out and hug a tree, look at the stars, take your shoes off, walk barefoot, something, garden, something that we feel, do yoga out on the deck, whatever, something, connect with nature. Nature is always a great teacher, is always encouraging us to be more intuitive. The problem is we get stuck in these human created spaces, boxes and squares and artificial light, artificial temperature, artificial air, everything. And we can get lost in these human created worlds. So as soon as we get into nature, it's reconnecting us with the wisdom of our being in many ways. So connecting with nature in whatever way works for you. Number 6 is creativity. So practicing something creative every day if possible, something, whatever it is. Maybe you dance around a little bit in the living room, or or write some poetry, or do some kind of music or art or sketching or handicrafts or something, journaling, something that writing, something that you feel is a way of connecting with your creativity. Okay, so that's number 6. And then number 7 is compassion. Number 7 is compassion. So practicing compassion really and kindness definitely opens up our intuition. And one of the main things, you've heard me maybe speak or know that I've written a book called The World Peace Diet. The basic idea is that, as soon as we're especially if we develop compassion towards those who can't retaliate, right? It doesn't take a lot to be compassionate towards those who will sue us or whatever, but those who cannot retaliate, animals, nature, so the more we can open our hearts with a feeling of connectedness and compassion and kindness and respect for other forms of life and other beings, the more we step into a sense of being at home in our consciousness. We're not putting up a wall. I don't want to know. See, if I say to many people, if I say, would you like to know where your bacon comes from? They may say, no, 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 don't tell me. I don't want to hear about all that. I want to enjoy my bacon. Don't tell me. I don't want to know, right? So that's it. I mean, they don't want to know, right? We don't want to know how the sausage is made. So the universe will support us in that. Unfortunately, they'll say, okay, you don't want to know, then just keep a closed mind. But intuition is the opposite. Intuition is wanting to know, right? Intuition is knowing, it's awareness, it's understanding, it's wisdom. So the more we act with compassion and kindness and respect, the more we're happy to know. We're not blocking anything. We're not afraid. We're not ashamed. We're not nervous. We're doing the best we can to be a force for kindness and healing. So that's why eating a plant-based diet is very important, I think, because it just opens us naturally to others. We're not causing suffering to workers who have to stab animals all day, or to animals, or to ecosystems. We're doing our best to minimize violence. So minimizing violence opens up our intuition also. So these are the 7 things that I want to emphasize. Meditation is really important. We can practice that every day. We can practice connecting with our dreams. We can practice cultivating a positive internal environment that we bring with us really wherever we go. And I would say really include that in your relationships with other people. See the best in them, treating them with love. And then also taking risks and trying new things, connecting with nature, connecting with our creativity, and practicing kindness and respect in all of our relations with others, especially those who are the most vulnerable. If we actually do these things, I think we will definitely find that we become more intuitive. We become more comfortable with not only with ourselves, but with an inner knowing that can guide us to live our unique life, a beautiful adventure. Our life is very fleeting. It goes by quickly. I can't believe I'm already 67 years old. I don't know where the time went. It just kind of flies by. And we're going to be all at that point where we leave our body and the end goes, right? So this vehicle is a temporary thing. So our intuition is our greatest ally to unfold for this lifetime our purpose, our mission. So to connect with our mission, connect with what that is, and to live that. And it's our intuition that guides us. And the more each one of us does that, the more it encourages other people to do the same. This is the best way to be a positive influence in the world. Don't try to change other people, just change ourselves. Live a life of joy and creativity. And that naturally encourages others to do the same thing. That's why I said at the beginning, I think the more we cultivate our intuition, the greater positive impact we can be on the rest of the world. So thank you. Thanks so much. I think, I guess this is Jeannie that wrote down the 7 things. Thank you for doing that. The 7 keys to developing your intuition. These are practices that we can all engage in. All right, so I don't know, we've got a couple of minutes. Does anyone have something they'd like to ask or share at all? Otherwise, I'd like to just thank all of you for joining us. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind kind of a presentation, but my feeling is that these are all little seeds that we can, in our own way, whichever ones seem to you to be most interesting, you'd like to cultivate those and plant those. And feel free, you can get this book. It has a lot more in it. Actually, this book has a lot more, a lot more. You can get it on Amazon or on our website. It's called Your Inner Islands, The Keys to Intuitive Living. The music is called Islands of Light. That's also available on Amazon or iTunes or whatever, or on our website. Our website is worldpeacediet.com. And I'm happy to also answer any questions you might have or comments by email. You can, if you'd like to have a session and go more in depth in any of these things, let me know. We can also do that. All right, so I see there's a few things here, mostly just thanking and excellent, helpful, good, inspirational. All right, well, here's the first song was playing with children in a field and feeling childlike free spirit, joy, and just having fun. Yeah, I know it's so great to just be with music and let it unfold our true nature and let it unfold wisdom as well in our lives. All right, so it's about time to wrap up. I know there's other sessions that are happening. So I'd like to thank you all for participating, for joining us. If I can be of any assistance, just let me know. My wife, Madeleine, also is an artist, and we're happy, both of us, to help. She's got a lot of videos on cooking and art and gardening and all those kinds of things. And we also do individual sessions. We've actually done thousands of individual music and art sessions for people. If you want to have your own unique music and art that we create intuitively, we can do that also. It's just great to support each other really on the path of spiritual awakening and cultural healing. So thanks so much, Jeannie. Thanks, everyone. And keep opening your intuition. And thanks, Jeannie. And go forth and multiply the message of intuition and compassion for all beings. Thanks.
Thank you, Will, for joining us today. And just a reminder, everyone, that will be playing more music for us on Friday evening. So we look forward to that too as well. Thank you, Will, so much for everything. If you guys want to unmute yourselves and say good night to Mr. Tuttle, welcome to do so. Thank you, Will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Will.
everyone.
That was fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks, Sachi. Thanks. Yep. Much love to everybody. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thanks so much. Namaste. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Much love. Thanks.